answer this point. You used to work for Michael Gove. Is there a Michael Gove plot to put Kemi Badenoch as the leader of the Conservative Party?
Well, there might be a particular senior former cabinet minister, or not so senior, but she might think that there's some sort of plot going on. In fact, I think I've just
She wrote a
referenced
book on it.
a book again. Yes, I don't think
Or
there is. I mean,
plot.
look, Michael has been a supporter of Kemi. He supported her the last time round. I don't know how involved he's been in terms of this campaign. I think Kemi, just looking at the MPs that she has backing her, I think she's been able to run this campaign perfectly well and perfectly able, obviously, without Michael's help. He's not in the Commons anymore. He's going on, I think it's his second day in the job of editing The Spectator.
I didn't know it
This
started
week.
already.
And I think it was reported, I think it was this week.
Right.
And I spoke to him a couple of days ago, and he didn't correct me, so I'm assuming it was yesterday. But I think he would. I'm sure if Kemi got in touch to ask him for some advice or to, wanted some sort of phrasing or how do I say this or how would you do this? He would of course give advice, but he would give advice. I'm sure if not that it would probably happen, but if Rob Jemrick picked up the phone, or if James Cleverly or Tom Tugendhat. Tom and Michael were very close because of all the work that they both did on keeping this country together as part of the union. So I'm sure if anybody asked Michael advice, he would be only too happy to give it. But I don't think he is, as some might suggest, running the Tory party, because I would just politely push back and say to anybody who thinks that he's running the show, I mean, he did run for the leadership himself a couple of times, and if he was that in control, he would have been the leader, I would suggest. But there we are. That didn't happen. So I don't think those conspiracy theories are stack up.
Right, yeah. Hot Ickles says icicles, is it? Does that say icicles? I can't read it
Icicles,
anyway.
yeah.
Says Kemi has a little more originality and spark than the others. For some reason, she's been downplayed. Well, Hot Icicles, you've clearly missed Michael Gove with his hand up her bottom, making a dance, apparently. As a puppet. I don't buy that argument. I really don't. Well, Simon says, you're an ex-Gove employee, but I'm not an ex-Gove employee, but I know both of these people, and I just don't think that's true. I don't think there is some grand conspiracy, because frankly, if they were capable of grand conspiracy, the country would not be in the shit that it's in right now, right? If they were that Machiavellian and clever, things would be a lot healthier and rosy indeed. And Michael Gove would have won the 2016 leadership campaign when he stood.
And I think, can I just also just add, because I think it's probably important for people to know. I mean, Kemi and Michael are very different people. I mean, I think they both admire each other because they come at it from a different view. So Michael was obviously very well regarded as being someone that was a reformer, that got things through, Parliament.
Not in a party political sense, to be clear.
No. So in education, he sort of delivered those reforms. He was, sent anywhere that was needed to sort of troubleshoot. Even at DEFRA, when he was brought back by Theresa May to be the Environment Secretary, a sort of a dead end job that most people would have. Well, he was the go-to man to try and think of ideas because the Tory party was tearing itself apart over Brexit. He was just churning out ideas week after week. He made that department in the newspapers again. So he's got abilities, but he does things very diplomatically. He brings people together. It's quite conversational. He asks questions. Whereas Kemi is obviously, part of the criticism about Kemi is that she's divisive, is that she goes in and she'll say exactly what she thinks, and she doesn't mind about ruffling feathers. I think Michael wanted to keep things, very orderly and tight and bring people with you, and it was all very diplomacy first. Whereas I think Kemi obviously comes at it from a different view that, we haven't got the time for diplomacy. There's too many things, as you say.
I like.
Yes,
we haven't got time. We haven't got time. Yeah.
So they're very different people, but I think they respect each other because of their opposing approaches. But he admires, obviously, she's got a great mind. She's got a great brain. She's obviously coming out with ideas, and that's why she's been able to get the support of her colleagues to come top of the ballot, it seems, this afternoon.
Yes. I once had a row, I hope he won't mind me telling this story, in the House of Lords, funnily enough. It wasn't with Lord Ali, I promise, but with Michael Gove about Brexit, about the kind, not about obviously we both campaigned for leave, but about what kind of deal we should end up with, because he was backing the withdrawal agreement under Theresa May. And, we left, and you still can't, you want to be sort of like, oh, Michael, you brute, but you can't, because he's just so damn nice. And that's the frustrating thing about Govey. But Swipe on YouTube says, one thing I like about Gove, he always answered the questions, unlike Starmer. But then Carol says, stick with reform, not UKIP, it won't work. Well, yes, I forgot about UKIP, to be honest. But Charlie, on that point of stick with reform, if it is generic, and if it's Kemi and they're both on the right of the party, and the media are saying, oh, they're going Farage light, why wouldn't you go full fat Farage? As a voter, I mean.
Well, I think the two candidates, whoever wins, they'll have to try and highlight that their experience in government. Now, that can be a plus; it can be a huge negative if they feel that they haven't delivered in government, but they've still got experience of being in government, and therefore that's something that Nigel hasn't got. But also, I think just as the campaign sort of evolves and whoever becomes the leader, just as they've got to then develop plans in the run up to the next general election. I think you've really got to then sort of drill down into the details as to who has the better plan. Now, Rob says he wants to bring back Rwanda. I do actually, for what it's worth, think that Rob clearly has taken a huge turn. But I do think it's genuine. I can imagine somebody, because we always talk about the Home Office and its failures, and I've met people that worked in the Home Office. In fact, we shared the same building with them, and they are incredibly frustrating people. That obviously, the Home Office is not fit for purpose, as John Reid said back in the 2000s. I think it hasn't been fit for purpose for years since. So the people there have all been the same, and they're just doing the same old stuff, blocking things. They're in their own mentality, in their own world. Frustrating ministers, no end. Priti Patel suffered at the hands of the Home Office for lots of different reasons, and highly frustrated that she couldn't get things done because the civil servants, the blob, as they've been characterised as, were blocking things. And I do imagine Robert Jenrick thinking, "My God, we've got to. Immigration is the number one issue in this country. We've got to grip it." So I think he has been on a journey, but that you've really then got to identify his plan or Kemi's plan versus what Reform are saying. I don't think it is actually viable to just keep saying, which I think Reform do, but I'm very happy to be corrected, which is just turn the boats back. I honestly, of course we all want to see that, and of course that's the emotion and that's the feel and that's what we want. Or France should be doing an awful lot more, and yes, they absolutely should. But if they're not, we can't compel France to do more. I mean, they should be doing more, but if they're not, then that's the problem. And I don't think you'll ever get a border force or a navy vessel that does approach a sinking dinghy and just sort of slings a rope over and starts towing them back. That's just not going to happen. So it's about what we want to see, and of course there's the emotion of that versus the reality of what policies is actually going to work to stop the boats. And that'll be the difference between the Tories and Reform.
Yes, I mean, to be honest, Chloe, though, sorry, Eunice, I'll come to you in a sec. Yeah. Chloe, Australia managed it, right? I know there's there's a wider stretch of water around them, and there is a obvious ability to be able to tow these people back safely, and it's not a country like France, so they can probably get away with it more. But the fact of the matter is, they put them in unsinkable vessels. These orange, they're orange, and they look like sort of mini submarines. And it was Scott Morrison, who is a former Prime Minister, but at the time he was Home Affairs, and under the leadership of our good friend Tony Abbott. And they put them in these vessels and they towed them away. So, I see both sides of the argument. I don't think this is beyond the wit of man to actually solve this issue. But what I would say, though, on Charlie's point, has anything that you've heard so far and from our viewers, Chloe, sort of swayed you either way or made you think any differently about it? Because you are a member and you've got to vote.
Do you mean feel differently between Badenoch and Jenrick or Reform? I thought you meant between Reform and the Conservatives.
Oh, well, to be honest, you might think differently about that as well. Whichever, really.
Well, I just wanted to respond to Charlie's point about Reform being, say, not experienced and not having a proper plan on the boats, and then we'll get on to Badenoch. So I think that, yes, there definitely will be a concern from some people that the Reform Party are not experienced politicians. However, I think that in the short time that they've been, well, the 5 of them have been MPs, they have shown themselves to be very proactive and very good politicians, asking far more questions, taking far more action than any of the MPs in the Conservative Party, if you ask me. And I think that that is massively helping. I think that when it comes to their other policies, yes, the thing you mostly hear them talking about in sound bites is stop the boats. But when they actually do have a very long thought out plan on, everything, housing, healthcare, etc. And I think the people who are, say, concerned about whether they're going to do that or not, a lot of people have gone and looked at that and actually seen that they've got a better plan than the rest of them. In terms of sort of the viability of their solution to the boats, now, I don't think it helped when you had Ben Habib, before he was fired, go on a media round and say that we should just let the boats sink, let them die, right?
No.
That I don't think that helped, and that confused people about Reform's position. And I don't think that is their position. Now, whether it is a case of turning boats back or taking them off their boat, putting them on some sort of lifeboat or whatnot, and then taking them back, I think that these things are possible. Australia has done it. Is it going to be easy? No. Are the negotiations with France going to be easy? No, but I think it is definitely possible. We're probably never going to stop every single boat, but I think that there are absolutely things that we can do, and I think people just want to see people that have the backbone and the tenacity to do it, and people see that Reform are the only ones that are going to do that.
Yeah.
Going back to Jenrick versus Badenoch, I'm still very torn, to be honest, and I mean, luckily I've got a fairly long period, I think, in which I can vote, so I can make up my mind. I think when it comes to
You
Badenoch,
haven't got that long, I think you get your ballot next week, Chloe.
Yeah, but don't you have until like the end of the month to?
Well, yeah, but then you've got to. Is it by post or is it online or is it both? Can you do both?
I think it was on. I think I did it online last time. I'm pretty sure.
It's digital.
But yeah, I think that my concern is that Badenoch, although she has sounded like a very strong woman who's maybe more right-wing when it comes to gender ideology and whatnot, I'm not 100% sure what she stands for otherwise. And we had a bunch of comments from the viewers coming in saying, no, she's very pro-immigration, don't be fooled. And I think a lot of people are concerned that she's a little bit like Liz Truss and that she sort of sounds like a strong woman who can say a woman is a woman, I know what a woman is. But then when it comes to other policies like immigration and whatnot, their past track record suggests that they're not on our side.
Yeah.
And just generally speaking, as someone who's not super interested in the leadership campaign, in that, I think the Tories are dead and I think that ships move on now. Just from what I see scrolling through my feeds, maybe my algorithm is unfairly skewed towards Robert Jenrick, but all I can see is great campaign videos coming out of Robert Jenrick explaining his policies, explaining his positions. I haven't really seen anything from Kemi. She hasn't really sold herself to me. Maybe she is making amazing campaign videos and they're just not showing up on my feed, but that's what I've seen so far. And I think Robert Jenrick, as someone who I was concerned has no personality to start with, I think he's actually quite impressed me and sort of started to show a backbone and personality in what I've seen in his campaign videos that he's put out.
I mean, on the point of stopping the boats, stop the incentives. When someone arrives here, if we actually ignore the ECHR, once you arrive here, you don't have the right to stay. We say that you get no benefits if you stay here, if you come here, that is, and all these other things, and actually clamp down on people working illegally in industries like the food industry, fast food industry. There's a lot of them driving these little scooters around for delivery food companies and all these other things. There are massive incentives to come here, and the black economy is one as well. I'm afraid, the stats that Albanians are still coming over because they're working in the drug trade. It all goes on. Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.